Sercont is just we're a marketing shop, Salesforce and marketing shop here in the States. We have offices, well, not offices, but we have team members in Canada, North America, and then Europe as well. Um, my last like title when it came to like doing some consulting was CRM and marketing automation strategist. Today you'll see me more as a marketing manager. So I moved from being managing multi-million accounts to coming back home into our own org and like fixing everything that we wanted to fix for ourselves, right? So applying not only strategy planning but actually the doing and execution of using tools like I'm going to call it account engagement now because I've been fighting for like 2 years to not call it that, but I'm trying to be reformed. And so I'm going to call it account engagement. Um, just a couple of things about me. I've been really lucky to be mentored through the community, right? So the community really welcomed me with open arms when I first started. As a consequence of all that, I've been able to present a couple of times at Dreamforce, a lot of different dreaming events really across the world. I haven't been to India yet, but hoping maybe 2024 is a year. And then our signature event called Mar Dreaming. Mar Dreaming started as this whole idea about bringing the best at that time Pardot content. To Ganesh's point earlier, sometimes it's when, especially when you're getting started, there's so many help articles, but not a lot of like how-to tutorials, and so it's really hard sometimes to like learn a new tool when like you don't have maybe a community to lean on. And so Mar Dreaming started as this dream where we wanted to bring that Pardot content to pretty much everybody across the world. Over the years, we've had thousands and thousands of people join us from over like 65 countries, including India. And so it's just really, really interesting to see this grow. And we just wrapped up about like a month and a half ago. And we had data cloud, marketing cloud, like personalization, intelligence, like all sorts of things now. Sales cloud, service cloud, experience cloud, and the whole mission is like helping marketers like thrive, right? In addition to that, I'm a contributing writer to a couple of blogs. The more predominant one that I am featuring is the Spot for Pardot, now just called the Spot. And then I'm also a 6-time Salesforce certified. I am in Texas, so here in the United States. I am at the Capitol in Austin, and I also co-run the user group here with somebody who's very, I guess, quote unquote, famous in our space, Laura Black.
Yeah.
So if you ever look up anything Pardot, you may see her face around. She was my mentor when I first started, and now it's a privilege to be working with her side to side, leading our own user group as well. So that's a little bit about me. Let's go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
So my slides are really simple. I didn't, to be honest, I didn't spend a lot of time like making them pretty or anything like that because what I want. Oh, let me make sure my laptop is plugged in. Sorry, I didn't. I made sure that. Let's see. Sorry. Oops. 1 second. Sorry. All right, I should be back. Cool. So I made sure that we kept this simple. I really want to be heavy in the demo and heavy on your questions. So as we're going through this, please feel free to drop them in the chat, stop me, etc. So today we're going to do a quick introduction to what account engagement is. So again, Pardot. We're going to talk about some of those key features that this awesome platform has, some of the use cases. So if you are new to Pardot, maybe you're trying to explore, hey, how can I keep pushing this a little bit further? Or maybe just having a basic understanding what it can do so you can speak to maybe your manager, like we should get this cool tool, things like that. We'll cover that. We'll go into a demo. And then at the end, I have a couple questions and just like some answers in terms of like how I feel you can really leverage like your knowledge in this tool to advance your career. So that's what we're going to cover today. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So let's succeed together. So I wanted to start with what is marketing automation. So especially if you're coming from like a more of a core Salesforce background, you may not really know marketing, right? And so things like SEO, things like email design, sending out campaigns, like that's not really like maybe your bread and butter. But now you're hearing more about this. Maybe your organization just decided to acquire this or whatnot, and now you're wondering, hey, what is this thing that you're asking me to implement with Salesforce CRM, right? So we're going to start with this concept called marketing automation. So what is it? So according to Salesforce, marketing automation is a technology that manages different marketing processes and just multifunctional campaigns across multiple channels automatically, right? So this is how Salesforce defines it, right? Marketing automation is a category, I could say, of like maybe software. So other pieces of marketing automation that you may be familiar with could be things like Zapier, Trade.io, any type of middleware that is taking data from one system into the other and like doing something with it, right? Essentially, you're programming it or organizing it using this interface to say, hey, I want you to do this on my behalf, right? And so we can see things very simply, like maybe even a MailChimp, right? That's another piece of software to send out emails. That would be considered marketing automation because essentially it's helping you do something in bulk at scale, right? That otherwise you would be doing like each time on your own manually. And marketing automation, it's obviously the discipline in marketing, but this could also be applied to like sales, service, other areas of the business. So now we're going to switch into account engagement, right? So now we have account engagement, which is a tool within this category of marketing automation. So we call account engagement a marketing automation platform. So in the literature, you may see maps. So like a map like that you open up to see where you're at, right? A map, and that's what it stands for, marketing automation platform. So according to Salesforce, account engagement provides a full suite of tools that help marketers create meaningful connections, generate more pipeline, and essentially empower sales to close deals faster, right? And as we go through our little demo today, I'm going to show you different pieces of this tool, so at least you know, like out of the box when you buy, what you get. Cool. Now, I keep hearing Pardot, I keep hearing account engagement. Can we just not use Salesforce to do all that? Salesforce sends emails. I can do flows to automate processes. I can do web to lead forms on my website. Like I can do it all with Salesforce. So like, why would I invest in this other tool, right? So again, going back to the marketing automation concept, account engagement is going to help you free up a lot of the time so you can do a lot of repeatable tasks, like things like when somebody fills out a form. So why would I invest in this tool when I can already do a lot of this within Salesforce CRM, right? So there's a couple of reasons. So one, this platform is already built to be able to manage this at scale, right? It integrates well with Salesforce, and it gives you a lot of additional data that you can purpose in both platforms, right? In account engagement and in Salesforce CRM, that could help really enrich things like looking at activities and not just emails or the basic activities that you can see in Salesforce CRM as your users are logging it, but really a lot of other information that the person themselves are doing through web traffic and cookies. And so although Salesforce CRM can do some of these things on its own, it's going to take resources. It's not possibly like the marketers won't actually have access to edit some things that they'll need access to. And so it just becomes this whole like snowball where like now you're having to, instead of empowering like a marketing team or a field service team or even a sales team, instead of empowering them, you're holding them back because you become the bottleneck to essentially like update any new tasks or any new processes that they need versus, hey, just tell them what it is, as long as they have a good understanding of how like data syncs and all that good stuff. Let them handle it. Of course, as a Salesforce admin, you'll still be involved because there's going to be things that they can do or that they may seek advice from you for. But again, you're trying to like not own marketing for the sake of like owning it, right? So one of the things that comes up as we're doing consulting projects is should I be buying account engagement? Should I be buying Marketo? Should I be buying HubSpot? Should I be buying like whatever it is, right? And so obviously anything under the Salesforce umbrella is our favorite, right? So account engagement, marketing cloud engagement, any of the other tools. But sometimes like customers come to us and they already have like HubSpot or Marketo or whatever. And so for us, like if we see a path forward and 9.5 out of 10 times we do with whatever tool they have, we'll prefer for them to stay, but we would love to help them like reevaluate what isn't working, what is working, things like that. And so the number one thing that comes at that point or even before they buy is, do you actually have your processes mapped out, right? It becomes really chaotic when you're trying to implement a tool that honestly isn't, it may not be super affordable to every organization, and then like you're figuring it out as you go. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like there's a lot of other tools that could be cheaper, like maybe a form stack if you just need like one or two like forms on your website, and that's really the level that you're at in terms of your tech maturity, right? So although account engagement is awesome, if you only have those processes, like human people processes laid out and clear, I feel like account engagement is just gonna honestly make it worse because it's gonna create technical debt, a lot of extra confusion, and then like who's gonna own it? Is it gonna be IT team? Is it gonna be the marketing team? So a lot of those things have to be figured out beforehand, or there has to be like a strong case to say, hey, we know we need certain features, so we're gonna roll out certain features first, and then we're gonna grow our strategy, and then like maybe next year we use the rest of the features, right, or things like that. So again, technology can help you save time, and this applies to even the CRM side, but it cannot define what doesn't exist, right? So again, if your organization is thinking about this, you know, this is your nugget of wisdom to share with them and say, and this applies to any platform and not even just marketing automation, right? Maybe payroll software, HR software, like whatever. Why are we, okay, we want to buy this or we bought it. What do we actually want to do with it? How does that look like from a people perspective? So then we can translate it. And that's where you have your business analysts or marketing analysts kind of come in and kind of help architect that as well. All right. So I'm going to go into some key features. Hopefully like the kind of concepts that I threw out just now aren't super like blurry or new to everybody, but feel free again to use the questions in the chat, throw them in there, and then we'll progress as we go through them. So some of the key features that we're going to talk about are like some of the reasons why like somebody would be interested in buying account engagement, right? Account engagement has a bunch of features. I didn't list them all here because really these are going to be the ones that most people are going to buy this tool for. And this would apply honestly probably to HubSpot or Marketo or Eloqua as well. So a lot of the time it comes to like your very specific use case, and it comes to money. Like that's what we see in the market. Like what's sometimes the most affordable or what's going to work best with our existing stack of technology. And so for that reason, the number one feature that I have here is the Salesforce integration. I worked in HubSpot, I worked with Eloqua, I worked with Acton, a bunch of different of those marketing automation platforms. To me, the strongest integration is the one with Salesforce and account engagement. So if you're really looking to make sure that the data flow is consistent and that everything's like speaking the same language, to me, in my personal opinion, there's no like better like sync than these two things together. So that's why I call this one of the key features. Automations. We're going to talk about just all sorts of different automations. Again, automations from system to system are similar, but they can vary. Some of them can get a little bit deeper into data models. Some of them are a little bit more on the top, but we'll talk about them in a second. Forms and landing pages, key thing for any like marketer that is driving leads to their website. You need to have forms and landing pages, or at least forms that you can embed on your website that can help track activity. For those people that are filling out the form. We have our email builder, which I'm going to say unfortunately or fortunately, this is one of the key things that most people come to account engagement for. So although it has so many other features, this is going to be the main feature that people are going to dive their teeth into. And so if you're just using Pardot for just email building and sending out just on their own, you're kind of missing the point of marketing automation, in my opinion, because it has so many other features that can really help streamline some of your other processes. But, that's usually step one. And so as you mature, you'll evolve into the other ones, or you may possibly like switch platforms just because, you're not really getting more than emails out of it. If you're familiar with Marketing Cloud engagement, right, they have Journey Builder, or if you're on the Salesforce CRM, if you're familiar with Flow, Engagement Studio is kind of like in between those two platforms. So Engagement Studio is essentially like a visual UI that you can you use icons to essentially automate a process. A process could be things like nurturing. It could be things like you're transforming data. It could be like you want to create this series of logic to maybe route your leads correctly. So Engagement Studio is just a blank canvas with icons that you can throw on there, and I'll show you an example in a little bit. And then, of course, reporting. In my opinion, at this point, the reporting and account engagement isn't the strongest compared to maybe some of the other platforms. However, the cool thing about it is that because you're able to use that Salesforce integration so well, that a lot of the data, pretty much all the data from account engagement, you can actually like push it into automatically into Salesforce. And then you can just use Salesforce reports and dashboards, or if you have access to like Analytics Studio, or even Marketing Cloud Intelligence, you're able to grab the data sets and do some more robust reporting in Salesforce. So the reporting part is pretty, I was going to say basic. It does a job if you want to know what forms, yielded the most leads, what landing pages, how your emails did, the basics. But if you're really trying to compare things like year over year or a time or things like that, it's best to do it in Salesforce. Cool. Let's go ahead and move forward. Here are going to be some of the use cases. And again, we'll share the slides with everybody. There's no secrets here. But some of the key use cases, I just turned some of them red so we can like kind of break down the text because there's a lot of text on the slide. But when we're talking about the integration, cool thing, we're able to use Salesforce campaigns, the object itself, across both CRM and account engagement. You're not really able to do that in some of the other platforms. You can do that like in Marketo and HubSpot, but there's other ones that like that's not accessible. With that as well, you're able to use the same fields from Salesforce for the most part in Pardot or account engagement and map them kind of like one-to-one. So that makes it easy to kind of like maintain the data sets. So that's pretty cool. In terms of automations, one of the things that there's automations that like the system just does, and then there's automations that you can like manually set up and then they just kind of like trigger on their own. And so one of them is that's very popular for sales specifically is each time that somebody like myself goes to your website and I have like maybe fill out a form, there's a cookie placed on me, or I can opt into those cookies. And then each time that I do something like open up an email, click on something, go through your website, all of that is logged. And so then each of those activities has like a point system. And so essentially, if I accumulate a bunch of points, that means that I'm really interested in your brand. right? And so sales teams tend to use that data point to like maybe prioritize who they're going to call, for example. We can create lists. Those are essentially clusters of people based on unique criteria. So anything that you have a feel for, you're able to use this for. So example could be like, who opened my last email? Let's create a list. Or I want to find everybody who is, in India because we want to send them, a specific email for maybe a federal holiday, right? Or something else that we're trying to do so we can invite people to a specific event based on like their industry. So lists are very easy, very similar to like a Salesforce report. The thing is like you can take that further. We have our forms and landing pages. So things like gating a piece of content, very easy to do with account engagement. Email builders, maybe you just, again, nothing like extraordinary out of the box that you've never seen before, but you can use its email creator to create emails, things like renewal emails, and send it out to a group of people. We have engagement studio. Again, this is going to be that canvas that we can do logic in. And one of the key use cases for this is possibly creating a new customer onboarding program. So the moment that there's like a opportunity closes one date, and like their status switches from lead to customer, they're added to a list, right, automatically, and then they start the program whenever you want, and then we can send them a bunch of emails across a specified amount of time. And then reporting could be something like identifying what pages are helping you convert the most across all of your assets. So those are some really quick use cases that you would be using on a day-to-day basis with account engagement. Do we have any questions so far on just kind of like this intro before we head a little bit deeper?
We haven't got any more questions.
All right.
No questions yet.
Okay, thanks. All right, let's keep going. So Blazor Trail. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into demos. So this is, I think, going to be one of the more fun parts. So I didn't include it in this presentation, but I wanted to let y'all know that when we send this presentation over, possibly with the recording, that I will include a link for you all to get a demo org. So if you are in a customer currently and you're interested in getting like your hands dirty a little bit, there's what we call a demo org, and then there's a hands-on org. So the difference between them is that one of them is literally like it's set up like if you were going to a Salesforce event and you're giving an actual demo, you need data, right, to show reports and an email created already on its own. So there's that. If you're a partner, so if you work for an agency who's a partner, you have access to that. If you don't, you can still find a way to get a hands-on account, but it's white clean. So it has all the features, but it just doesn't have any data. Yeah. Now, the cool thing about that is that you can find a million different like sample data generators online. There's one called like Kangaroo or something like that, and you tell it, hey, I want data that has first name, last names, emails, industries, whatever, and it generates an Excel file for you that you can use to import, and then you have some data to kind of like play with. The only exception is you cannot send emails. You can build them, but you just can't send them. And so that's the only limitation. But I think still, like if you're trying to learn it, I think is still valuable. And the cool thing about it is that you can plug it into a free Salesforce developer account as well. So you can actually play with the integration as well, right? And really get it from a Salesforce admin perspective. I think that's going to be the most valuable thing for you to understand. But again, if you want to play with the other features, they'll be available. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to share my screen again, but I'm going to stop. Let's see, stop sharing, share again. I'm going to share a different window. All right. Let me move this over here. I'm sorry. All right, here we go. All right, everybody should be seeing my account engagement. It says Cloudy's Lounge 1. I do
Yes.
actually have this plugged into my Trailhead account as well, so I can do
Okay.
challenges. So this is again my Scratch org. Doesn't really have much information in it, but here's what it would look like. Now, for anybody who's a customer from I think 2019 moving forward, so like if you don't have it or your org doesn't have it, it's gonna look essentially like this. If you have an org that's older, you may still be on the classic version or switching between classic and lightning. The platform itself was an acquisition for Salesforce, so essentially it was a standalone platform with its own login for a long time, since like 2019 or so, when after the big push to move everybody from Salesforce Classic into Lightning, they moved Pardot at that time into Salesforce and they built this UI around it. Now the UI really hasn't changed. The main change is that now you actually have your tabs on the top, as you can see, like you would do on any other app within Salesforce CRM, right? But I'm going to go through some of the tabs and just kind of show you some of the information. I'm just going to go through it. Feel free to, again, to stop me, or if you want to look at something else, just like kind of like raise your hand or throw something in the chat. So here, the first thing that you're greeted with is what we call the dashboard. Dashboard, you're going to have any type of like beta testing, any type of announcements, any service disruptions, any type of announcements that Salesforce wants all account engagement users to know, you're going to see it here. And as you can see, we have a couple of pop-ups here talking about certain sync behavior, things like this. If you scroll down, if obviously I don't have like any forms from this org on a website, so there's not like really data coming in. But if I did, here I would see a bar graph that would essentially share how like inbound leads have affected the database. So essentially, how many people have filled out the forms, and then it'll go by date. And then I can just get a visual based on like some of these metrics here. On the bottom, we have a marketing calendar. So this is anything that I schedule, or if I have any integrations like a webinar tool, like GoToWebinar, WebEx, things like that, and I integrate that with account engagement, then you'll see it. You'll see it here. We have a couple of questions. Hi, is it possible to use default values you on part as subject emails instead of first name? Yeah, so I'll get into that question in a second, and then the other one. This dashboard is completely different from our normal dashboard.
Yes.
Okay. Is so the account engagement one should look similar to this, even if you're in Classic or Lightning. If you're logging into Salesforce CRM, it looks different because that's a different page layout. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yes, Marcos. Like Vijay, like it is something different, and maybe for the classic and the lightning, it looks similar, but it's a different from the usual dashboard that you are viewing in the CRM in the Sales Cloud.
100%.
Yeah,
It's not the
yeah,
same
it's
thing.
not
This
the
is an
same.
app. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is an app that exists within CRM. So just like if I go to the Sales console to any of these, it's an app.
yeah,
So to your point, let's see if let's see. So you see, there's an app. Where I'm just gonna click this, and again, it's gonna differ because some people are maybe on the call center, so service would be different. This is maybe a little bit more similar to what most people would see. And you won't see Pardot up here unless your admin added it as a tab. So you'll have to click on an app, like I will right now, Pardot Lightning, and then that's what's going to take me in here. So something to call out here is that not everybody's going to have access to Pardot, right? It could be installed, but your admins have to give you certain permissions for you to be able to see the app, number one, and number two, to actually be able to like go into it. Because you may be able to see the app, click on it, and then when you get here, it says like you don't have the access for it. So just letting everybody know that like this is something that comes up with every implementation that I've done. The admin's very like scared that sales agents or other people are going to come in here and just like start messing with it, there's levels of access. Again, one of them is just like, can I even see the app in the app launcher? And then after that, can I actually log in and do stuff in it? So there's a couple of layers, safeguards to do that. But again, we go from to the app launcher, click on the app, get here. So sorry I missed that step, 100%. We're going to go over into the prospects tab. Prospect is just what we call people. So you're maybe more familiar, like if you're leads and contacts, that's maybe the terminology that you're more familiar with. Prospects are essentially your leads and contacts as well. But it could also be people that only exist on the Pardot side. So depending on how you set up your lead assignment rules, or if you don't, you could have people that are just stuck in Pardot and they're not making it over to the CRM. Another key thing to understand as a Salesforce admin. So let me show you an example. Here, this is the data table of all the people that are in the database. Again, I only have 4 people because this is a scratch org, right? So I'm not doing the most, but I can see things like names, company, and I can customize this similar to like a lead view in Salesforce, right? I can't add all the fields. There are limits to how many. You probably don't, and similar to a list view, you probably don't want more like that than 10 columns, because then it's going to be really narrow and you won't be able to see all the data. But you can customize this. You can also search for people by email, by name, by company. You have a couple of drop downs here that can help you just like put another lens, right, or another filter on the data just to kind of see it. Here we have 4 people. All of them are Marcos. We have Marcos 3 and Marcos 1, and those have a little blue cloud. That means that those people have been synced into Salesforce CRM. And I can actually click on this cloud and it takes me directly into the record in the CRM, right? So you open a new tab. This is me. And I'll come back to this, but essentially a lot of the information that I would have on the page layout or the lightning record page that was designed with whatever purpose or fields that you guys wanted in mind could potentially show like activity from Pardot, or we could create a tab for like marketing, and then that's going to entail the marketing data so that sales doesn't have to like scroll a million miles to get to the information that they need so they can do their prospecting and calling. The other 2 don't have a blue cloud, and that's because of one of 2 things. I didn't sync them. And you're maybe thinking like, do I have to sync every single person? You don't have to do it manually, but that's where we have automations, right? And those automations can be upon them clicking something, upon them filling out a form, or we can just have things in the background that just do it for us. We are able to leverage logic that's just Pardot or just the CRM. So maybe you already have lead assignment rules. Maybe you're using tools like Lean Data or Traction Complete to like lead route already in your org and you don't want to mess with that. We can leverage that same functionality. You just have to tell Pardot what to do. So we have a couple people here. I'm going to click on Marcos 1 just so you can see what what the record looks like. Very different from like a traditional like lead view or a record in the Salesforce CRM. We are not able to customize this look. It's going to look like this for every single person. Now, you may see more fields, but that's because the fields are unique to that org. But things like this basic information, that's going to stay as it is. Very important for marketing. Can we email them? Have they bounced? Things like that. We have some activity data. So like I've racked up quite a bit of points. And then who's my assigned user on the lead or the contact level, right? We also have some additional fields that come out of the box, like address, zip code, lead source. And then on the right side, we have any of the custom fields that we built either uniquely in Pardot or that we sunk over from Salesforce into Pardot. And then you have this activity. We do have a bunch of other tabs. I'm not going to go into them today just because for sake of time. But this activity log is going to be one of the more important things to like kind of share with sales. And as you can see, I just went crazy and filled out a bunch of forms. And then over here, I added a engagement history component to this page layout, and this is sharing the same information. I could take this a step further and turn it into like a line graph, or I can do reports on it and get some aggregate numbers. But a lot of it is just pretty much the same data that I would be able to get in Pardot. It's just showing it in Salesforce. Again, not everybody's going to be able to see this. You need to give them a specific permission set to be able to see some of this data from account engagement and CRM as well. Other user other than SFDC, how do you maintain those details in Pardot? Let's see, other users. So you can manage your fields or data within Pardot on its own. When you sync data between Salesforce and Pardot, you have to Pardot, like if you're sending data from Salesforce into Pardot or vice versa, there has to be a field created, right, for it to host that information. And then there's going to be a whole mapping process, right? This field from Salesforce CRM into this field from Pardot, things like that. You have the ability to, at a field level, say, do I want Salesforce to always be right? And I don't care what Pardot says. Like, it'll try to update, but we'll revert it and then overwrite Pardot. Do we want Pardot to always be right? So whatever is in the CRM doesn't matter because Pardot is always going to be pushing and giving us the best value. Or is it something like on a form, right? Like maybe like an industry or a phone number, things like that. And like as long as we know it's the same person, we don't care which platform is the right one, as long as like whoever gives us the most recent information, I want both systems to be the same, right? So you essentially have the flexibility to do that, which is really good because sometimes we have field data that is maybe even populated from an integration via Salesforce CRM, so we know that's going to be the king, and we don't want Pardot to touch it. We don't necessarily have to allow Pardot to be able to do that. Sometimes you don't even need that data in Pardot, so you don't have to map it. So you have a lot of flexibility in terms of that data, but it is on a field by field level. So this is where we're going to lead on you a lot as a Salesforce admin to essentially understand that data flow and recommend what you think is best for us, right, as an organization. And Salesforce, account engagement admins are responsible for this too. They also have to understand it because they can't just be setting up things and overriding things in the CRM without like that being a business decision. So those are things to keep in mind. Did I answer the question, or is there still some confusion on that one? And I didn't forget about the values one. We'll come back to that in a second. Okay, great. Thank you. So you may have people that are just on the account engagement side and they're doing their thing. So they could probably maintain it. It just really depends on the business use case for that field. All right, we're gonna go into, let's see. I'm missing a tab. Let's see. Okay, on the content, cool. So we have our forms. I'm not gonna walk you through how to build forms. So I'm just gonna tell you it's super easy. And this is what the form looks like. So it has my name, my first, last name fields, email, company, level. So this could be a drop down, and then just a pick list and a submit button. So I'm gonna go into here just to show you kind of like the steps. We're not gonna really invest a lot of time, but I can, once I map fields into the platform, I can just add whatever field I want here, as long as that field is on the either leader or the contact level, or in part. So it does have to be mapped. So that's one. If we keep going, we have the look and feel. Here I can change the name of the button, right? Whatever I want it to say. We do use this concept of a page layout. Think of it like a skin, right? So that's that file has HTML and CSS to essentially say, I want the button to look blue. I want the things, the rows to stretch, right? Whenever, depending on the screen size of the person that's looking at that form, things like this. That doesn't come out of the box. So Pardot gives you a very standard layout, It doesn't look great. It looks very similar to like a lead, web to lead form. Honestly, I think they look hideous. So either you pay somebody or have somebody on your team do some HTML, CSS to make it pretty, right? And then you just use that same file on everything, easy. Or you use another form solution. That form solution could be like form stack, form assembly, ninja forms, like whatever it is. Just make sure it integrates with account engagement specifically. And then there's ways that we can plug them in. So the front facing, right, me filling out a form, I see it as pretty, but all the data comes in right into the CRM and into account engagement. So those are just like different possibilities. So if you already have a form solution, you don't have to get rid of it. I often, unless the form is doing something really complicated, like creating accounts, right? Because it's a free trial or something like that. I normally try to save my customers money because you already have this platform that has this. So like, why are you paying for another platform that doesn't, right? Like that's extra, right? Save yourself that money that so you can pay this other bill. Um, and then at the end, we have completion actions. So completion actions are things like when somebody fills out this form, what do you want it to do? So you can redirect to a URL, so that could be a thank you page. You can have them download something automatically, or you can have them. We can show something, so like a button that they can push and then actually download it. So like thanking them for submitting it, things like that. And then we have our completion actions, which is essentially the part of the marking automation. When they fill out this form, what do we want Pardot to do on our behalf? I want to make sure I send a notification, email notification to this sales user. I want to add them to a list that now I know that they downloaded this. And I want to add them to a Salesforce campaign with a status of like they downloaded or they registered. So again, sharing that data with Salesforce, you set this up once and then you move forward, and you don't really have to do a whole lot more because you're essentially set up. You can also do send them an email, and that email contains the button to download the PDF, for example. So there's just a lot of things that you can do with forms. um, so then we'll just click cancel. And then the other thing here, I'll come back to the questions in just a second. We have landing pages. The cool thing with landing pages is you can do A/B testing, A B C D E testing. Um, but for this one, it's just a very simple form. Page. Account engagement does give you a couple of templates to kind of get started. They look like this, so to be honest, they're not anything magical. This is also run by a layout template. So if you have somebody on your team who's probably a front end developer, has dabbled on HTML and CSS, they could probably add your logo, uh, change this color to your color and things like that. Or they can come up with a brand new canvas of, you know, uh, look and feel to more match your brand. A lot of customers, when I'm onboarding them, ask me, do I have to use landing pages? You don't, right? Again, just like any product, you don't have to use every single one of the features. Why would I recommend that you use this? One, your website's so locked down that if you needed to launch something within a month, it would be very difficult to get a new page up, right? So that's normally honestly the number one reason why people would go and move over to this. Or number two, simply like you're trying to create offers for maybe clusters of people, and you just can't have them on the website because you don't want them to be crawled by like Google or other search engines, right? And you want it to just be more private. So you send an email to a very set amount of people, and they're really the only ones that are going to be seeing this, right? Uh, Pardot doesn't have like things like password protected sites or anything like that. I'm sure you could do some of that with like JavaScript or something else. But essentially, if you don't give somebody the link to it, they're not gonna find it. And so again, I can come fill out this form. It'll give me a report of how many people who fill it out, their information very nicely. I can export that in a file, or I can push that report into Salesforce CRM. Again, just different ways of visualizing the data. So again, nothing too impressive here to share, as I haven't really built stuff in this particular org. Um, this is something from an event that we did a couple of years ago that's a little bit more polished. So the this whole presentation for this one landing page was using landing pages in Pardot and how the art of the possible. So here we have a logo that leads to our website, just some basic information. When I click that, it jumps to my form. This is what a landing page could potentially look like for like a product, right? Something very simple. As our content, people come to us just to do this sometimes. We help
Okay.
them create cool stuff, but you can totally do it on your own with things that are coming out of the box. I'll share some resources later that you can find some templates that you can also, they're a little bit more advanced, you can also use. But again, knowing HTML and CSS, you can learn it on W3 schools, you can learn it on YouTube to kind of like figure out what to change. Um, Honestly, that's how I learned. I didn't go to school to be a web developer. I learned it, and that's just something that I think is a really cool differentiator, especially for marketers. All right, let me close that off. So we talked about landing pages, people, emails. Let's go into emails, and then I'll do like reports, and then we'll wrap up here because we're almost at time.
Yeah, we are
Um,
almost at the time, Marcus. Yeah, yeah,
so just a really simple email builder, nothing extraordinary out of this world. If you used an email builder before, it's the same thing. I added my image, I uploaded my image. I have this concept of dynamic content. So I'll answer the question about the tags in a second here. But I can click preview and see it as different people. So my dynamic content will display different things because dynamic content is based on logic. And so I can use images, text, things like that. Um, so show nothing or show something. So again, very simple email. This could get really extravagant. I'm not gonna walk through that today. The cool thing about some of the tiers in part is that you may have this rendering test. This is Litmus. Limits on its own is a separate subscription, but you get a partial one with your account engagement if you're on the plus or higher version. The cool thing about this is it allows you to render, which just means it gets to give you a preview of how that email is going to look like across different email clients. So, like if you have an Android and iPhone, if you have Outlook, AOL, Yahoo, Gmail, Apple Mail, and it doesn't show you all the possibilities, but it shows you more than what you would probably be able to test on your own. So that's a really powerful tool, and you don't have to pay extra for it. So that's cool. All right, let's cancel that, and then I'll see if I can find a quick report. I don't know
load
if
it.
there'll be much in here. Um, Go to a form. So all my forms will be listed here. It's a very much of a table view. Um, this is how the reports are going to look like. It's pretty much just a bunch of numbers. I can click into the numbers. They may show me a little bit more representation, but it's not going to be super like dynamic. So I can do one of two things. I can go into CRM and like do better reports with the data set, or I can export this as a CSV and do some Excel magic. So again, these are some of just like of the core things. Ganesh, yes, absolutely. There is a lightning drag and drop builder. I didn't cover that today
Yeah,
because that requires a little bit more of a setup, and they're stuck and they just on their ways and they won't do it. But this you get a drag and drop builder, and you get the one that I shared with you just now. You get both of them for free. You just have to set them up.
yeah,
All right. So let me. There you go. Let me close this. Stop sharing. Share again. All right. So let's do a quick pop quiz here. Which of the following is not an account engagement native feature? So is it which one is not? So is it forms and landing pages? Throw them in the chat. Is it reporting? Is it automation rules? Is it chatbots, or is it sending emails? So which one did we not cover today?
yeah.
Yep, chatbots. You're right.
Support. Yeah,
Yep. There are chatbots you can integrate with Pardot, but they don't come out of the box. So
yeah.
100%. All right. Let's skip that real quick. I just have a quick couple of quick questions, and hopefully we have like 5 minutes at the end to like answer one or two questions. But so one of the areas that I get asked is like, how does account engagement fit into my role, right? And I'm only covering three. You may be in another role that doesn't fit, but here we go. I tried to cover the three top ones. As a marketer, this is going to be like your Swiss knife. Account engagement is going to do a lot of the things that you probably need to do on a day-to-day basis, like setting up journeys, sending emails, uh, executing your your lead gen strategy, so like content, all that stuff. It also helps with like tracking like visitor traffic. Now that we're moving away from third party cookies into first party cookies, um, you can set up an opt in box for cookies and things like that. So if you're a marketer, account engagement is going to be like a key tool in your toolbox. As a Salesforce admin, and I alluded this along the way, you're probably not going to be building those emails, right? But what you will be doing is um, getting a bunch of questions about like, hey, can you update this field in Salesforce for me so then we can sync it into Pardot and like it matches. Why is this not like why is this data not coming in right? And so it's gonna take a lot of energy to like detangle maybe validation rules or other type of conditions that you have maybe set up in your org to make sure that the two systems are playing well with each other. So I'm telling you this because like a lot of times you were already probably in your org way before this tool came into your picture. Now marketing is bothering you with things like you weren't bothered with before. They're reaching out because they need your help, right? Um, Try not to see them as a nuisance, right? Like they're there because they want to learn. Once they learn, they can be more clear about their requests or potentially just solve them themselves. And I think at the end of the day, that's like the goal, right? For everybody to be like self-reliant. You guys have like a hierarchy in terms of like the way that you release things, right? Like in terms of development. Um, Keep that in mind as well, and like inform them so they also understand like the timelines that they need things from. And then as a developer moving into that, one of the sad things about I find it sad. One of the sad things about account engagement is like you don't get a sandbox just because you buy the platform. So it is not like the CRM. You have to pay a good amount of money, in my opinion, for a tier that actually gives you that. And that sandbox, up until like fairly recent, didn't actually allow you to push into production. You would build and you can test, but then you have to go and build and test again in production. So it kind of defeated the purpose of like the whole testing process. I think that's starting to change with some things now that it's moving more and more on platform. But that's just something to keep in mind, developers. Don't get frustrated at them. It is not their fault. The platform itself just doesn't offer a free sandbox, and the one that it does offer, if you pay enough, it doesn't act like a normal software or Salesforce sandbox. So just something to keep in mind. How can account engagement help differentiate yourself? So I'm gonna keep this really brief. I started as an account engagement user. I evolved into more of a hybrid role, helping sales and marketing kind of talk to each other and still doing some CRM stuff and still some stuff in account engagement. I think the way that this tool helps you differentiate is um, it just forces you to really understand like the Salesforce schema or like the data model. And once you understand like truly understand the data model for Salesforce, it becomes really easy to just like know what you like. If somebody asks you they want something, it just more clearly like you just see it more clearly. And so I think that's going to be one of the ways that you can differentiate yourself, like be more technical versus somebody that's just maybe coming in here and doing some emails. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but like if you're really trying to like maybe become a technical architect or things like that, those are going to be things like having that knowledge of this tool is going to be really pivotal. The other way to differentiate yourself, I think, is like just like trying to see how much of your like tech stack can actually be integrated with account engagement or CRM, and like going through the motions of doing that. So again, become this communicator that's helping facilitate issues of like data flow, or just like communication to make sure like all the teams that are using this tool are aligned. I think those are going to be really strong skills to develop. And as you can keep hearing from it, it goes beyond just being able to use this tool, but really talking about it and like playing to its strengths. And my last question here: should you get account engagement certified? Right. So now that Ganesh and the team have essentially been setting up some sessions, right, for you guys into 2024. Now that we're officially a user group, um, this question is going to come up more and more. Um, I'm a little biased because again I started with this, but I would say that if you can afford it or you can find a way to make it more affordable for you to do this, um, and you're using it, I would 100% like recommend that you become certified. If you're maybe an admin and you're not in here day to day, like I said, I'm gonna share a dev org link. Go and play with it. Really understand that sync. Become that mentor to those marketers that maybe aren't as well versed in CRM as you are. I would say maybe don't get certified because really at the end of the day, if you come to an organization, maybe for a new role or whatever, and you say, "Hey, I've helped them solve these issues," that's going to mean a lot more than just having a certification that where you just like played in a dev org and you really didn't do anything with it. So just keep that in mind as you're pursuing your certification, and you good luck to everybody. Here, lastly, to close out, I want to share two resources with you: the Spot, and then I'll come back to some of the questions. The Spot I wrote there, so when I send this slides over, you can click on this image or you can Google it and find me in all my articles, and then a bunch of articles from some really smart people. If you weren't aware of an event called Mar Dreaming, this I alluded to this at the very beginning. I've spoken a lot on this, and then we've had people from India, all I think 20 something countries speak at this event, and it's all free. So there's a bunch of free video content, 20, 30, 45 an hour in terms of time investment, but really smart people sharing really cool things about the things that they're doing with account engagement and other tools in the Salesforce ecosystem. So please, please, please give those a try if you haven't. And I just want to thank everybody for your time. Here's my LinkedIn QR code, so feel free to scan that. Ganesh, thank you for having me. I know we're right at time, so I'm going to try just very quickly to answer one or two of these questions, but we'll stop here. Um, let's see. Mohit, we have seen companies are opting to reverse syncing, meaning means direct leads, not prospects. So my question is, what all changes we see reversing? So we're essentially saying we're importing from Salesforce, and then they're being created as leads first, and then coming into Pardot. There's no change. Um, it's literally the same mechanism. It's just you're doing it backwards. So that's totally fine if the organization wants to do that. I prefer to use Pardot as kind of like a way to clean up data before I send it over into the CRM. So particularly if you don't have a strong process to like when you're getting lists from trade shows, external sources, or if you allow other people on your team to import data, and there isn't really like a template or a process to say they have to have X fields filled out correctly in this order in with this drop down values. Um, I would say that's an issue putting data straight into the CRM. That part I could solve, but I don't see an issue with doing that either way. Part of providing any default reports. Yes, we only cover one, but anything that's standard in terms of landing pages, emails, basic things that you can imagine, like how many people have filled it out, how many people have clicked on something, all that is provided. You can take that data into Salesforce as a data set and do more robust custom reports with it. So you have that power, but you have everything that you need to kind of get started for sure. Um,
Marcus, I have a couple of questions for
yeah,
you.
go ahead.
And Marcus, one, there is a permission based policy by Pardot, right? So we have to get a permission before sending an email out. And I've seen so many companies are using a purchase list or from the third party data set. And are we allowed to use those data sets? I don't think so. But What is the best way, like whether we can target them through any different channel, different media, maybe LinkedIn campaign, and we can get a consent and do the marketing in part at an our test, like what's the best approach?
Yeah, you are not allowed to do that.
Yeah, I
And so you're the moment that you do that, you essentially broke your contract.
yeah.
Now, it's kind of a gray area because a gray area in the sense of the technology, because the technology is a tool, right? They're not going to know if you bought this list or not, right?
Yes.
So, so that's why people try to do this now. Excuse me. There's been a lot of changes to like the way that the email clients like Gmail specifically and Apple Mail are managing deliverability of your emails that you're sending, regardless of the tool that you're using. So this is not a part of thing. Um, when you send to those lists that are bought, they're not validated, right? You have
Yeah,
no idea how old the data is. When you
agree.
send this email out from Pardot, it's 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 really hard to find, but I'll tell you this: you get 0.1% spam rate. That means for every 1,000 emails that you send, like in at one time. So let's say I have a list of 2,000. I have the ability to get two people, and that's it. Two people, if they click spam on the email and it goes to three, that's a red flag for me. And I have no way of confirming this, but I think if you get three red flags within a quarter, they just
Yeah,
shut you down.
yeah, like recently we had this Google and Yahoo declared 0.3% of the complaint rate, spam
Yeah.
complaint rate. Yeah, yeah, agree. And one more thing, I wanted to ask about the grading, Marcus. Like, um, is it possible, like, to move? Let's say I have the criteria. If the criteria matches, uh, the prospect grade should move from D to A directly. It should not be a jump of a single grade. It should be a jump of a 3 or a 4, or
Yeah.
whatever the letter I wanted to.
Yeah. That's a, I can see where the frustration is. I've had it too. Um, and I've tried using engagements too, and it won't do that. So here's like the two paths that I would recommend, right? Um, so we didn't really cover grading here. So just for everybody, grading is you can set up like your ICPs or like your ideal customer profile.
Correct.
And it's usually like a real one would be based on demographic data and like other data. But in part out, we really only have like what they gave us, which is usually name, maybe location, their industry, things like that.
Yes.
Some people use augmentation tools like Zoom Info to like get more data, but you know
Mm,
that gets a little gray area too. Long story short, you have your profile, and then you can set up automations to say when they give us this information or we get this information, like level them up.
yeah.
And like the pinnacle is just like score, you get more numbers,
Yeah.
right? The more interested you are in that company or in their content, the grade is based on the data that we have, we're more interested in you.
Yeah.
So everybody kind of starts with like a base level, and then you can go up. Instead of numbers, we use letters. So the pinnacle is like if you're an A, you're a perfect fit. So he's asking like how can I skip like a whole
Yeah,
letter?
let's say like I got a form submission from a CEO or a vice president. But I'm not, expecting them to come and engage with my marketing asset and having the score step by step and then go to a MQL and go to the sales. No, I can't keep them wait in the queue.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so the expectation there, Ganesh, is going to be the platform itself works the way that it's going to work. So
agree.
unfortunately, there isn't a way to push it up. Now, the other thing that I would recommend is I've done this for other organizations that had both digital but also in-person attributes that they wanted to combine
Hmm.
to then really create like a really comprehensive tool. This was a nonprofit that I worked with a couple of years ago. We just used, I mean, at that time it was Process Builder and some of the
Okay.
part stuff to essentially marry the part grade and score
Uh,
with this custom object. So it can
oh,
get elaborate, but it, if the goal is really to like do that, um, that's one option. The other option would be that you can route anybody who's a VP or whatever differently, right? And
Okay.
so they kind of skip your normal process of like being nurtured, and they just kind of go to whoever they need to go. The beautiful thing about Pardot and Salesforce is you can customize it to whatever you really need. So if there are exceptions, as long as we document those and we make it very clear and we test,
Yeah.
then that's a path forward. So that's what I would recommend versus creating a whole custom thing. But there's so many options that you have between the two tools to leverage. But
Yeah.
to answer your question, you cannot jump from one to the other. There's nothing to do, or you would have to do it manual, and that defeats the purpose of what the concept of
Yes.
marketing automation.
Marketing automation. Agree. Thank you so much, Marcus, and thank you so much for your valuable time, Marcus, and spending, giving an insight to the attendees and to me as well. Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely love being here, everybody. Again, you guys have my LinkedIn. Follow us, subscribe to the spot, and then make sure you spend, if you have some time during the holidays, to spend watching some of those videos on Mar Dreaming. Again, just a really short, simple form to fill out, but you get access to over like 150 videos from like the last 4 years from so many good people across the world, really. So can't wait to see you. Thank you again for having me. Good luck in 2024 with your next sessions. And again, it was a pleasure being here. I'll see you soon.
Yeah.